civilization. But they've given a lot more than that to civilization. They really have. Hell, France was our ally, if you want to call it that, during the Revolutionary War. You know, if they weren't there a couple of times, late, of course, but at least if they weren't there a couple of times, especially during the last battle, if the French ships were not in that harbor, either the Revolutionary War would have went on longer and we probably would have lost, or we just would have lost a lot earlier. And our founding fathers, instead of reading about how they founded a country, would be reading British history about how they hung a bunch of rabble-rousing rebels and traitors to the crown. Really. So if anything, the French helped give the world the United States of America, which then turned around and came back and saved the free world not once, but twice. World War I, World War II, in case anybody wants to doubt me. If the United States did not enter World War I, the Allies at the time, the British and the French, would have eventually lost. If we didn't enter World War II, Britain would have fell, and that would have been the end of Europe. And the United States would be standing alone trying to defend itself on our land, on our shores, against Germany and Japan, and we might not have survived. So we saved the world not once, but twice. And neither of those times was it an easy task. No, it was hard and took years to accomplish. But what is happening in France should not be happening in France right now. 9/11, 2001 in the United States should not have happened. Shouldn't. It should not have happened. What's happening in France what's happening in Germany, what's happening in Sweden, what's happening in Hungary, what's happening in Austria should not happen. We know what these people are about. There is no melding or cultural melting together with them. They are never going to assimilate into Western or Eastern culture. Look, China and India understand this. Russia understands this. I do not understand why the Western world does not understand this. Look, I don't see Islam or Muslims trying to infiltrate South and Central America. Well, you know, first of all, they're kind of heavily Catholic, for one. But two, a lot of those countries, you know, I don't know if you send Islam into those countries. I mean, like, you know, Colombia and maybe Argentina and parts of Mexico and El Salvador, you're going to get the drug lords, for one, taking them out. Because there can't be any terrorists but the drug lords in those countries, for one. And two, those governments are not going to go against the massive majority of Catholics and let the Muslims adopt anything in those countries. It's just not going to happen. They're going to have to be taken by force. But you don't see South America as being a target. You don't see Asia as being a target, even though you have Malaysia, which is the world's most populous Islamic nation. You don't see them trying to infiltrate because, you know, China and Japan and Korea and places like that, in Vietnam, they don't allow that kind of crap. Where do you see Muslims going? They're invading Europe and North America because we're allowing them to. Being frank, they're invading those areas because we are allowing them to do so. I mean, we're allowing, well, not we, but France has allowed basically whole towns to become Sharia law enclaves. England is facing the same thing. Now, you have to ask, when are these types of things that are just happened in Paris, when are they going to happen in other places? Sweden right now is overwhelmed with these people. They don't know what to do with them. They've tried. Look, you got these small German towns. You've got Greeks. They're coming into Greece by the boatload, and they're getting off in ports in Greece and trying to walk their way to Germany. And you've got Greek citizens, the Greek people who are in their path, that are crying out for, they don't have the police protection. The police are overwhelmed in these small Greek towns that these massive amounts of people are walking through on their way to try to get to Germany. I mean, you got countries like Hungary and in other places that are saying, we're not taking any. We're closing the border. We're shutting down. We're putting up fence. They're putting up fences. Oh, wait a minute. We can't put up a fence, right? Because fences don't keep people out. You can't build a fence that long. Fences don't work. You got all these European nations putting up fences to keep these people out. Yet you've got the so-called enlightened ones who, Angela Merkel of Germany. Now she's, once revered as probably the strongest supported European leader in the European Union, is now concerned that she may not survive, her government may not survive the rest of the year. Because the German people are so pissed off and upset and overwhelmed by her allowing these Muslims into their country without assimilating into becoming Germans. Well, there's no way they can do that, by the way. There's just no way. Look, Muslims cannot immigrate to this country and then expect to, expect them to meld and integrate and assimilate into American society. It's impossible. Their religion is not only a religion, it is also their full way of life and their governance. It is diametrically opposed to Western belief, Western thought, Western philosophy, and the Constitution. All we're going to do is butt heads. They cannot assimilate because they cannot accept the notion of the Constitution. They cannot assimilate into any European nation because they cannot accept the notion of whatever freedom that those countries do still have. They cannot accept the notion of freedom of religion, which most European countries have. They cannot accept any of that stuff. So they are diametrically opposed to what any European nation has to offer. And whatever those cultures are against Islam. Because Islam says you are to take them over. You're to destroy that type of civilization, that type of culture, because it is abhorrent to Allah. The only thing acceptable is what Allah has dictated. And it isn't Western society. It isn't Eastern society. It is only Islamic society. There is no science. There is no freedom. There is no philosophy. There is nothing but Allah. Do you understand? That is not compatible with any other civilization on this planet. They will not assimilate. They will do what they did in Paris tonight, what they did at 9/11/2001, what they continue to do over the past decade or 2 decades in Europe, in Asia, in the Western world. They will continue to do it because it is their duty to issue a caliphate and to bring in paradise, which is nothing but Islam. There is no denying it. There is no compromise. And once you let them in, it is too late to close your border. Because think about it. World War II is going on. The United States lets Nazis immigrate to the USA. And then all of a sudden, Japan bombs Pearl Harbor. And then the United States says, oh, well, we're just going to close our borders and stop the Nazis from coming in. Too late. They're already here. You get my point. You can't stop the flow. It's like trying to dam up all the water after the lake has been drained. Too late. This will not be the end in Paris, in France. It will not be the last one. This is not going to be the last time something like this happens in Europe at all. This is not something that the United States can prevent from happening here. Now, frankly, I want people to understand. I want people to understand and think about something. If we have a problem, which we really don't have a problem, but if we have a problem with shooters on college and public school campuses, with one shooter, what do you think is going to happen if there is a coordinated attack with multiple active terrorist shooters? Just bent on maximum destruction. Now, see, usually when you have a crazed shooter, they're just, they're not bent on maximum destruction. I mean, they only seem to go so far until somebody approaches them and tries to stop them. Somebody else with a gun, then they usually kill themselves. A terrorist is not going to do that. Their whole objective is maximum destruction and maximum death, and they will fight you to the end. And that's something that we better understand pretty darn quick. Let me tell you, these people they mean business. They are serious as a heart attack. That was one well-coordinated attack in Paris. Look, I'm being frank, because the French police, the French military, they're not slouches when it comes to terrorism, because they've had to deal with these types of things in the past. They deal with the the Muslim unrest in certain towns and enclaves around the country. They're not novices to this. It's not like they've never dealt with this thing before. They're not newbies to this. They fully understand what has to be done, what needs to be done right away, how to corral these types of things. They're well trained, and these terrorists still maximized the body count of at least 60 people, put the entire country on lockdown. And had the president basically call a state of emergency or near martial law. Think maybe it was a little bit coordinated and rehearsed and practiced? Do you think those types of cells exist in countries all over the West and in North America? Yes, we know that there are terror cells here, waiting for the word to be activated. The only difference is that in certain places here in the United States, there are an abundance of people that are legally carrying guns that will fire back, and that's probably the only reason why we haven't seen something like Paris happen in the U.S. yet.